So a lot of people are mad at me for my Avatar review, my Avatar: The Way of Water review, and that's because while I thought the movie was very pretty to look at, I also found it kind of bad. Like it had its moments. It had some nice moments. It had, especially at the end, there was some very emotional bits that I thought were quite well done, but overall these just didn't make up for the rest of the film, and neither did the 3D or the special effects. I mean, granted, I'm very hopeful that someday we'll be playing video games that look as good and as detailed as The Way of Water. But as far as this movie goes, I just wasn't a fan. So I wanted to go over the 5 biggest problems with the film, kind of break those down a little bit. Uh, First problem, number 1. The story was just kind of not good. It was predictable. It was just a rehash of the first film in a lot of ways. Same villain, new body. And it just kind of meandered at this terrible, slow pace for so long. And that just, I don't know, that just doesn't cut it for me. I can't get into a story and care about these characters when it just has so little going on. You know exactly what's going to happen when the Sully family leaves the jungle and goes to the Water Tribe. You know that the bad guys are going to follow them there, and then there's going to be a fight. And it's just sort of, like this isn't really what I want to see from these films. Just another fight with the Na'vi against, the human military. This time in the water. It's, what is the next film going to be in the desert? No. But, excuse me. I think a couple ways they could have gone with this is an adventure story. Like the Sullys go off and explore more of the world of Pandora. Or they could have given us some more of Earth. What's going on in Earth, Still give us some of the whales, which I really enjoyed the whales and the aquatic stuff. But what's happening on Earth where people are now in possession of a substance that can stop human aging? Like, what kind of dystopian society is there? So there's a lot of ways they could have gone, and maybe they will go with future films. But this one felt so much like, hey, let's make a movie that's just setting up like the Sully family. So that was a problem. The second problem, the final battle scene was way too long. And again, it just felt like, here we are doing this again. The Na'vis are going to kick some butt and beat up the humans who are going to have to retreat or perish. But this battle scene had a lot of issues with it. It's laughable how many times the kids are captured and then get away. And each time it's like, turn yourself over, Jake, or your kids die. And then Jake doesn't, and the kids get away. There's even a part where the littlest girl, Took, says, I can't believe I'm in handcuffs again. And it's like, yeah, I can't believe it either. That's a problem. It's also weird because the water Na'vi just disappear. Like, everyone shows up with their, water dragons or whatever, and there's going to be this big showdown, and there's a fight for a little while, and then it's like they just all bail. And it's just the Sully family by themselves. And that's, okay, what? What happened there? Did we just forget? Did Cameron just forget? Did they have to cut some stuff? Because, maybe they had to cut some stuff. And that's my third problem. The movie's just too damn long, man. I actually, as I was thinking about this video, I thought, sometimes I ramble on too long. So I'm going to try to keep this short. But, I have this rule of, I call it the rule of 20, and that most modern cinema could be cut by 20 minutes and probably be a better film with better pacing. Because there's a lot of movies that don't need to be 2.5 hours. So it's like 20, 30 minutes you can lop off and it'd probably be a better film. I think that's true of even longer films. Like, The Batman was too long. I think you could have lopped off about 30 minutes of that movie, and it still would have been a long 2.5 hour picture, but it would have been, better paced. That final act in The Batman was ridiculous. And here we are with another movie that I think could easily lose 30, 45, maybe even an hour of runtime. I don't know exactly what I would cut, but it just seems like you could definitely cut from this film. I understand why the first movie was so long, because it's introducing so much. But also, I think the first movie had a better and more unique story. There was a lot more going on with the science stuff. There was a lot more going on with the human characters. So I think that it justified its length more, and for a lot of reasons. But I think like if we're having five, I think it's five Avatar movies. They don't need to all be 3+ hours. Again, this is a problem of indulgence, which I think we see a lot of with James Cameron in this film. It's extraordinarily expensive. It's way too long, and it's not very well written, and yet, here's this huge, enormous budget to make this huge, ridiculous film. So, anyways, cut. It does not need to be so long. Number 4, I went to the 48 frame per second 3D version of this, and I guess maybe I'll go see the non 3D version and see if it's less jarring. But I really found those high speed scenes. They gave me like that soap opera effect that you get when your TV has like the true motion setting on or whatever, and it makes everything look like a soap opera because it's just too clear and too lifelike. It doesn't look like a movie because it's a 48 frames per second instead of what we're used to is 24, and this movie goes back and forth between the two, so it can be very jarring. And again, like while it is a pretty movie, I didn't think that the presentation of it was all that impressive. Partly because it was so jarring. I think it would look better at 24 frames per second. I don't think it even needs 3D. Like, again, this just seems like, okay, that was a nice gimmick back in 2009. But now, I just want to see a movie, you know? The 3D craze is over, and I think it should be put to bed. Like, it's for amusement parks. So finally, we'll come to the dialogue. And I'm going to do 2 things on the dialogue here. One, the kids with the bro and the cuz constantly. Come on, bro. Hey, bro, let's do it. I don't know. Somebody told me that this is how like kids in New Zealand and Australia talk. And okay, like who cares? We're not in New Zealand or Australia. We're in Pandora. And these are Navi. Where did they get this lingo from? And then people are like, well, they're actually speaking in Navi, and this is just how Navi kids talk. Well, I don't remember anybody in the first movie talking this way. It's super jarring, and the only other dialogue in the movie that I find more laughably bad is when those sea Navi, the ocean Navi, are talking with the Tulkun whales. It's one thing to talk to the whales. It's another thing to, like, be able to interpret what they're saying, but to have actual dialogue pop up in on the screen in subtitles and like have a whale asking a Navi about her pregnancy and stuff is just cringy bad. It's like laugh out loud stupid. And as much as I did really enjoy the whales, I think that this was a huge mistake. And just overall, the dialogue in the movie is just not great. I don't know. I just think maybe somebody should hire some new writers. And maybe take Cameron out of the writing seat for a bit. Let him do his directing thing. Hire some top-notch screenwriters and give us a story that has, more of the good emotional stuff. More adventure. More more compelling hard choices for characters to make, because right now this movie, what are the hard choices that anybody has to make? They just go somewhere and then the bad guys show up and then they fight. That's pretty much it. And like even in the first movie, Jake Sully is sent to sent by the military as an avatar to kind of infiltrate, but he goes native and ends up fighting against them. I thought it would be much more interesting in that film is, if he wasn't paralyzed necessarily, but maybe his dad or his mom or his wife or his child or somebody in his life that he loved was the one that could be saved by him following orders. And so he had to make a hard choice between saving them or doing the right thing for the Na'vi. So, those are kind of my big problems, not much of a story, kind of a rehash of the original. Really bad battle scene at the end. I mean, it had its fun special effects and its fun moments, but Just the, the repetitiveness of it and the length of it was ridiculous. And then number 3, just the length of the whole movie, far too long, far too long and indulgent. Then the number 4, special effects, while gorgeous at times, could be jarring because of the 48 frames per second and because 3D is still a gimmick. Just focus on making a beautiful looking film. I would just add to this real quick that just because there are so much more CGI in this one than in the first one, far fewer humans and more Na'vi, it does start to feel kind of like they're relying on these cartoon characters, which is fine. I love animated stuff, but it can be a little jarring to have when you do see a human pop back up when you've been spending so much time in CGI land. So, and finally, the poor writing for dialogue, specifically, especially the teenagers and the whales. So that's my take, and I'm sticking to it. If you have other things you would like to add to this critique, please do so in the comments. And if you want to call me names and tell me that I'm a horrible person, join the crowd on Twitter. I had one person tell me that because I mentioned going to this with my children, who also didn't love it. They didn't hate it, but they didn't love it. They told me on Twitter that me and my kids sound like miserable people. That's a new one. In all my years of reviewing stuff, I've been attacked many times. But my children, no, not yet. That's new. Raising the bar, folks. Raising the bar. All right, like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Thanks for watching. Peace.